Dudes. Hey! What's up, dudes? Look who dropped by the basement. My buddy Joe.
Hey, what's up?
Joe Hart. What's up, bud?
Not much.
Yeah. So, I've been trying to get more people to come by, and Joe was gracious enough to come by. He's a fellow guitar player, obviously. And why don't we hear a little bit of that before we get started? You play a little bit on there. Make sure we get... Yeah, sounds awesome. So, Joe, I think we've known each other, probably since, I gotta think, college. I think we probably met because we were in...
Late 80s.
Yeah, late 80s, early 90s. I want to say it was more like 1990. I think I was in it was either a jazz appreciation or it was like a music theory class at UMass. I think you were in the same class. And we probably met there. And then what I didn't realize is that you lived like one town over from where the music store was.
Yes.
And then I would see you in the music store and be like, hey, you're that guy from class. Yeah. So I think that's probably how it started. Yes.
And obviously I left a huge impression on you.
Yes.
Because I would see you in school and go, hey, it's the dude from the music school, the music store,
Right. Yeah. So. Yeah, UMass, it was more than one person walking around with a guitar on their back at any one time. That had quite a music program going there.
Yeah.
And now you went there for music? Was that you? I was an economics major. I took the music because I needed electives and I wanted a cool elective. But
I started off with engineering.
Okay.
And electrical engineering, and as soon as I realized that I wasn't the guy sitting there with the soldering iron building amplifiers, I was the guy behind a desk. Right. I was like, that's it, I'm out of here.
Right.
So then I switched to business because everyone said, oh, you gotta earn a living.
Right.
And realized business
minored in
wasn't
business.
My thing.
Right.
So I just went, you know what? I'm just gonna go all in.
Right.
So I switched
now,
to
how long? How old were you when you started playing?
Late. I was 16.
16.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is a little late. A lot of people start.
So I missed the boat for any fame and fortune.
Right.
Because by 18 it's over.
Right. Yeah.
And I was still learning scales.
Right. Yeah. So you remember what your first guitar was, or what was the process? How did you get started?
My parents gave me guitar lessons when I was like 13.
Right.
And I sat there, and after the 6-week or 8-week long session through the rec department in town,
right,
I had learned like 3 chords and how to strum Happy Birthday. And I was like, this stinks. Like, I would have learned Kiss, I would have learned Led Zeppelin.
Right.
This is like some old lady teaching me how to,
right,
play like folk songs.
Yeah, that was like my first 3 years of lessons. I started when I was 6 because my sister got hit in the eye with a rubber dart. Remember those dart guns that had a spring and had a rubber dart and you would stick it in?
Yes.
And it would go, and it was, well, they came out at some serious force, and she walked right into it like we were playing, and she just happened to walk through the door at just the right moment. She caught it point blank right in the eye. But she was fine. I put her in the hospital overnight, and my parents bought her an acoustic guitar, and at first she was sort of into it, and all this, but she quickly was like, oh, I don't know. And then my dad went out and bought a cheap Harmony electric solid body, and we wound up getting lessons, and I did that for from 6 years old to 9 years old, and then I quit for baseball, and then high school got cool again.
Yeah.
So you wind up getting another guitar. But I went through a definite period where I wasn't playing, and then again when I was in college and in graduate school, I went through a little period where I wasn't playing. I had to focus on my studies, so that was the end of that. But so you're 16, do you remember can you point to a guitar player where you were like, that's the dude that made me say, okay, I want to do that?
Well, I mean, growing up in the 70s, loved Kiss and everything.
Right, Kiss, same here.
But it never really dawned on me that, hey, I could play an instrument. It was just, blood and flames and, stuff like that. Half-naked girls on album covers.
Yeah.
But then I was probably 10 or 11, and a friend of mine gave me Led Zeppelin 2.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was one of those things that would be written into a movie, just I put that needle down in like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I need to do this.
Yeah, I only listened to Zeppelin once. Once for 2 years and once for 3 years. You know, I mean, that's... I mean, when I was in high school, I think I went through a period of a good 12 to 18 months where I listened to nothing but Led Zeppelin. I mean, they were just... if it wasn't Zeppelin, I just could not care less. It was just off my radar.
Yeah.
Now, I had been into Kiss like that just a few years earlier, but Kiss was off the radar, you know. It was like 1981, you know. So, like, the Unmasked had come out. I was really... The last great album for me for Kiss at that time was Unmasked. Of course, they redeemed themselves a couple of years later with Creatures of the Night, but... Before Creatures, you know, they just had that period with Music of the Elder, and I know some people love that album, but, you know, I'm gonna listen. If you weren't around in that period, there was an album out called The Wall, and it was huge. And everybody wanted to capture the mojo that was The Wall, because they were raking in money. They were backing dump trucks of money up to those guys' houses and dropping it off. That's how successful that album was. And everybody wanted to capture that. And so did Kiss. So Kiss came out with The Elder, and I think that was their answer to The Wall. They're like, I could just see the boardroom meeting. Kids want a concept album. You know, that's what the kids are buying today.
Yes.
I know. I mean, they were always 24 months late on any, you know, content. You know, they released their disco album in '79. You know, like a year after, you know, disco was officially declared dead. So...
Yes, but they made it up in coffin sales and Hello Kitty now, and...
You know what? I'm going to see Kiss in September. And I think Kiss, for me, at this point, is that they're just such... I wouldn't know if I'd call them lovable characters, but it's almost like how you love Dr. Evil. You know? He just makes you smile, and you're just like, oh, I can't stay mad at you. You know? You know, as much as I, you know, think that Kiss is, you know, over-the-top commercial, I do believe they belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, along with Rush. And I think without those two bands in the Rock and Roll...
Rainbow.
Oh, my God. But just singling out Kiss and Rush, until those two bands are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it's a fucking farce.
Yep.
Anyway.
And you heard it here.
You heard it here first. So, remember your first song you learned?
Working Man by Rush.
Nice.
Yes.
Right.
I got like a Rush complete songbook and opened it, and it was like chronological order, and it had sort of like the hits, you know. So Working Man was the first song, and it was all the little dots and squiggles.
Right.
So I'm like, what the? You know, so like F-A-C-E, like figuring out single note by single note. Two notes on top of each other, like played together. Like, what are those two notes?
Right.
Like, hey, look at that! It's a power chord. You know.
Right.
I had no idea, but just note by note by note.
Right. You know, I went through the same thing. I was lucky enough that when I started when I was younger and I took lessons, you know, this guy was the Mel Bay book all the way. In fact, I still have my old Mel Bay books. They're written in there like, you know, January of '74. You know, lesson and above it, awful. Like, I'm like 7. Okay, in '74 I was 7, or in January of '74 I was 7 years old, and he's writing on the top, awful underscore. It's like, you know, times have changed.
Suck.
Yeah, exactly.
A frowny face.
Exactly. Yeah, you're awful. I mean, he literally wrote awful at the top. You know, but he was tough, you know, and he had the big mutton chops and, you know, the patent leather boots and a big giant, I think it was a Gretsch. It might have been a Gibson L5, but it was a giant guitar. And he could play like the chords and the melody all at the same time.
Yeah.
And every week he'd go like, he'd play the whole thing in like a chord solo, full on everything, and go, next week I want it to sound like that. No, it's a joke. That was his joke every week. Next week I want it to sound like that. And, you know, that doesn't help, bro. That really doesn't help. So.
And he probably wasn't nearly as cool as Ace.
Yeah, that's just it.
You know, he could do all the chords and the melody and everything, but he wasn't as cool as Ace.
Well, one time he said, okay, you know what, this week, because I kept telling him, I said, geez, you know, these songs are kind of boring. You know, we're doing like, the earth moves under my feet. And I'm like, you know, I mean, great for Carole King, but, you know, I mean, I'm 8 years old, you know, so one week This was or when I was like 9 or 10. It was like the very, very end of my, because I think we stopped in 76, so I'd be 10. One week he goes, okay, here's what I want you to do. You know, that was the greatest awakening ever in my life. I was like, oh my God, that can do this? What have we been doing all this other crap for if that can do this? And my wife, I remember my mother telling him, I've never seen him practice more this week. This week he practiced more than any other, thing. So, really, like you say, but I will say, those lessons, I learned how to read music. Yeah. So later on, I didn't have to resort to tabs if I didn't absolutely need to. Yeah. I could just read the sheet music to some degree, and I got the rhythms down, and that really did go a long way. And I do think that, as much as tabs are out there today, and as much as it seems archaic to use sheet music, it still really is the way to talk about music. Yeah. I mean, to really communicate. Yeah. And I had an old music teacher who would say, if you can't read or write music, it's just like if you can't read or write English, or whatever language you speak, he's like, you're functionally illiterate. Yeah. So he's like, until you can read or write, you're functionally musically illiterate. Yeah. And I was like, oh, geez, you're like Dr. Bringdown today. It's like,
so and it's so much easier to see how the notes relate. You see the triads stacked up.
Right.
With tabs.
Right. Tabs
are paint by numbers. You're not learning how to.
You know what tabs are good for? Tabs are good for suggested fingerings, and for that I really like them. Yeah. I do like that for suggested fingerings. But the tab people get it wrong too. It's like clearly there's no way he's going to be playing it there. He's playing it down here. You can almost just see like there's no way he would play it like that. And of course you see one now. You can see a video of the person and confirm it. Yeah. So. Were you playing in high school much? So if you're 16, you got to be a sophomore in high school, right?
Junior.
Junior, yeah. So yeah.
I graduated 17. So.
Right.
So yeah.
So you learned Working Man, and that was it. You're like.
And I was
complete.
No wait, that was just the beginning. I was off and running.
Yeah. So then,
then Finding My Way was the second one, and then onto the second Rush album.
Right. So what do you go from there? You go to college after high school.
Yeah.
Went to college. You major in music.
Yeah. Eventually.
Right. Yeah. Right. Eventually. You get around to it.
Yes.
And what kind of music were you, at the time, what kind of stuff are you playing? You doing classic rock or?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I went through a period right around that time. In fact, it was right around 1990. I went through a big James Brown period.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know what it was, but I just, I think I owned every one of his albums. And I got to say, for the right hand, it really helped.
Yeah.
I think it really does work your right hand and get your sense of rhythm down. It's not the most complex stuff, but I think in terms of just, working on your rhythm, I think the James Brown stuff just can't be beat. So, I recommend anybody out there should always go through a little period, just like we go through periods of Zeppelin and Rush and Kiss and all that. Go through a little period of James Brown. I think it's worth it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So, what happens when you get out of college? Now, I know at some point you started your own record company.
Yeah.
What's the name of the record company?
Rabbith Recordings.
And where's Rabbith come from?
Russian Black Sabbath.
Russian Black Sabbath.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Okay. You heard it here first. He admits it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by that, we mean not any copyrighted or trademarked names by anyone. Yeah, and in fact, my first, real song I ever learned was a Black Sabbath song. It was Iron Maiden, which was a total eye-opener for me. That whole, I think I went to junior high, and a buddy of mine was like, yeah, I got Black Sabbath. We sold ourselves for rock and roll. I said, okay, I'll go get it. Yeah. And I remember, putting it on and then oh, look, it's rain. Oh, yeah, there's a bell ringing. Oh, isn't that nice? And all of a sudden and I'm like, oh, that's kind of scary. I'm in 7th grade Catholic school, what is this? And I'm getting scared. It's getting more and more scary. Then I hear, oh no, please God help me. I'm shit. I ran up and turned it off. I was like, okay, that's a bit much. I swear to God, I turned it off. I literally got scared by the song.
At one point, my family took a trip down to Florida. We drove down. and like the movie Vacation, station wagon with 6 people all piled
I
into
know
it.
that.
And I had like a little tape deck, and before I left, I stocked up on transferring some albums to tape and stuff.
Right.
So I had my little, the little white earbud thing that you stick in.
Right.
So I was like sitting in the back, before you had to be strapped in and stuff, like laying in the back of the station wagon and stuff.
Right.
Listen to it.
The monophonic, like
Yes.
clear earbud. Guys, it's not what you think it is. This is old school stuff. Right?
It's like a hearing aid.
It's like it looks like a hearing aid. Right.
And I'm sitting there, and I mean, we're in the car for like hours and hours. Someone kind of dozing off. The end of Am I Going Insane by Black Sabbath with all the laughing, the lunatic sounds and stuff.
Right.
I woke up out of like almost a dead sleep, petrified.
Yeah. I swear, we have to write an article how Black Sabbath ruined my childhood. Because it was like traumatic. I'm in Catholic school, I'm just like, this could get me in trouble with Satan. I was just, I don't like the sound of this,
Oh, I mean, it was like insanely scary.
It was. I mean, in fact, there was a time, this note here, that's called a tritone, that was considered such a scary interval that you would literally be burned at the stake for playing it. I mean, there was a period in time where they would literally burn you at the stake for playing that interval because they felt it summoned Satan.
Yeah.
And they felt it was dangerous. It was a dangerous interval to play,
Yes.
But of course, we love it now.
And parallel fifths.
Right.
The cornerstone of Black Sabbath.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was also banned. You couldn't play parallel fifths.
Right. Hold on. So, now, are you playing in a band at that time? Did you have?
I kind of had my own band, but nothing really taken off. I didn't know what I was doing.
Well, you got like 2 or 3 projects going on like right now, don't you?
Yeah, I'm in a few bands. Yeah.
Right. So,
you got to be.
Right. I know. Plus work 9 to 5. So I think you have. One's called the Blue Mangoes.
Yeah.
Right. And then there was another one. What's the other one? And then
I have the Joe Hart band.
The Joe Hart band. That's the main one. But is there another ancillary band?
For a while, I was doing the Joe Hart Rock and Blues traveling review.
The traveling review. It's more of a blues-based band, right?
Yeah. And just the idea of having rotating players in and out. And,
right. But the Joe Hart band is a set lineup?
No. It's me and whoever else.
Now, you also play bass, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so play bass with Freudian Slip. Just a local band, some friends, and they asked me to fill in a few times, and eventually
it turned into a regular gig.
Yeah.
Right, because you know the tunes.
Right.
Right.
And I fill in on bass with Joe Stump.
With Joe Stump?
Yes.
Right. Now, for those of you who don't know Joe Stump, he's sort of a shred style. I'd call him a...
Like Yngwie on steroids.
Yeah, like an Yngwie style player. Absolutely. In fact, now let's talk about your guitar a little bit. Your guitar has these grooves between the frets, otherwise known as scalloping. That's something that Yngwie does. Is that something that Joe does as well?
Yes.
He does.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I have a scallop guitar
Richie
too.
Blackmore.
Uli
Roth.
I did it because Yngwie and probably Richie Blackmore, and I was just like, I want to check it out, and so I sacrificed my RG 560 over a period of 3 days. I did it myself. Now this is a maple, which is I think a little harder to do, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I think you really need to. With the rosewood, I think it flakes a little easier. I did it mine myself with a set of brand new bastard cut files I bought at Sears, but that was professionally done, right?
Yeah, this is, can I say trademark names?
Sure.
It's a Warmoth neck.
Right. So you had Warmoth scallop it for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I'll custom the width I wanted.
Yeah, let's talk about your guitar a little bit. What do you got here?
Stainless steel frets.
Oh, nice.
24 frets.
Right.
Because you can never have enough frets.
Right. You never have enough frets, exactly.
I only use about 11 of them.
But that's a mini humbucker?
Yes.
Right. And then a regular humbucker?
Yes.
And then a standard, that almost looks like a Wilkinson style?
This is...
Is it a Fender?
No, it came with the.
It came with that
body.
With the body.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what was the body again?
Is Tokai.
Oh, nice. Right.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
one of the early '80s like Japanese clones.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Right.
I was actually walking around a local mall. Some dude, I was with some friends. Some dude was walking around with a case, and I said, "Hey, what you got there? A guitar?" Like, yeah, like I'm a brain surgeon. It's a guitar case. Yes, it's a guitar. So I'm like, "Oh yeah." Apparently, he did some work for somebody, and the guy couldn't pay. So I guess he either took it or was given it or whatever.
Right.
And he was selling it for $75.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, yeah. The hard shell case, tweed case, and everything, it's, worth close to that. So I'm like, I'll buy it.
Right.
And the guitar sounds awesome.
Oh, let's hear it.
The neck. So actually, the bridge and this plate here is the only thing still original.
You painted it?
The body. Nope. The body. This and the jack plate.
So the original paint.
Yeah.
Original body. Original bridge.
Bridge. I replaced this.
Yeah, I was going to say those saddles look.
It had the stamped ones,
right,
and the little pieces stick up and hurt my hand.
Are those the graphite ones?
No.
No.
They're just steel.
Because they looked a little. It was slightly black. I didn't know if they were the.
They're steel, but they're black. They're painted black.
Anodized, right?
Yeah, but they're wearing off and getting rusty on the corners.
Gotcha. So let's hear it a little bit. Yeah, it sounds great. This I picked up at Daddy's, God rest their soul. He used to go to Daddy because we live in the same area, so he was a Daddy's guy too. I had bought a bunch of stuff from them. I was in there buying an amp or something, or in there checking in on something, and I was looking for a guitar. I was either going to one scallop it or two sort of Frankie it up, do the EVH 5150 thing. So I was sort of looking around, and they had this in there. It still had in fact, there's still a little plastic left. It had the plastic on the pickguard. It was in mint condition. It was like brand new. Instead of being made in China, it was made in Indonesia. It's made actually by Cord. It has an IC serial number. IC is Indonesia Cord, IS is Indonesia Samick, CN is China, and the drop off is actually quite great when you get to China. The inlay, they put a gold in the center, and that's sort of a way to check it out. Like skip the affinities and go with I think this is just called the standard. So anyway, new, I think they're $249, and they had it up for $119 used. They probably took it on the trade, and I was like, dudes, I'm buying an amp. Can you give me the guitar for $89.99? And they were like, how about $99, and you can never bring it back, and it's like a wholesale one-way job. I said, okay. So $99, and it's actually a pretty nice guitar. It's got a couple single coils. And a humbucker, and it's been it's actually been a pretty decent guitar. In fact, it has the more modern, just like yours does, the more modern rolled bridge, than the older style with the. Do you have two posts? You got 6 screws.
6,
yeah, interesting. So it.
I'm superstitious.
Oh yeah.
The 6 is like the vintage kinda. So.
Right. That's what I got in my my Japanese. It's the 57 reissue, but they couldn't call it that because they had the American was called the 57 reissue, so they called it the 50s tribute or the 50s reissue or something like that, and then they had the 60s, which was the 62. But so I'm just noticing on the headstock here. What are the tuners? They're kind of nice. Spurzels?
Yes.
Nice. Yeah.
Locking tuners.
It looks like you added a few washers here to
washers. I don't know. It seems to brighten up the tone a little bit.
Did you? Yeah.
I don't know if it adds a little mass. I don't know.
Yeah, could balance it out a bit more.
I mean, so much of all this music stuff is like mojo, voodoo.
I swear a lot of it's just BS.
I
really do.
But I like the sound of it, and they're on it, so I'm afraid to take them off.
Right. Graphite nut?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It looks good. And I'm noticing, is that the official Rabbath symbol? Because I'm seeing combination of Sabbath and Rush right in the. It's like a pentagon in the middle of Cross.
You know? This man, like my dad would say,
Brains.
there's no flies on him, and if there are, they're paying rent.
Thank you. I think.
That is exactly what it is, yes.
So, you've got a band out now, the Joe Hart band, and what do you got going? What's up? Because I know you were talking about
Recording a new album.
Recording a new album.
Yes.
And when's that coming out?
Hopefully in the next couple months.
Nice. You doing it at home?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got a little studio. Just like, a lot of us with amassed equipment over the
digital
years.
workstation.
I saw that. I saw you have a digital workstation, and you got a new YouTube channel.
Yes.
So all of you guys out there that are buddies of mine, I recommend. I actually made it easy. I put a link to Joe's channel on my channel. Show him the love. I think he's got like 4 subscribers. I'd like to get that up to like 5. At least. So if you could be kind.
6 by the new year.
Yeah. And you upload stuff you do with the Joe Hart Band and other stuff, or is it just this is just the Joe Hart Band stuff?
No, just kind of everything.
Just kind of everything.
Yeah.
Right. Great. So if you do a show with any of the other groups, you'll pop it up there.
Yeah. And some videos of like, I pretty much built this guitar all tricked out.
Right.
Videos of like a bass that I did, another guitar that I have like the whole Brian May 6 little mini switch thing going on and stuff, and
Yeah.
all kinds of fun stuff.
All right. No, it sounds awesome. All right, guys. I actually put a link to his website in the description, and like I said, you can link to his channel from my channel, and I hope you check it out, guys. So let's do a little rocking here. We'll rock the folks at home for the rock out, and rock on. All right, guys. Later. Rock on.